Okay, hello. Just got off a client call, which was really nice. So I'm just gonna take off my hearing aids. Give the ears a break. So today I want to have this conversation with you of like what I'm noticing, like what it means to be a projector in alignment, what it means to be like to feel success. And I shared with that in my stories. And I think there is like something really interesting that's happening in my world right now. I tapped into this new beginning. And it's really weird because it's so good, but my mind is trying to like kind of play tricks on me sometimes. So my whole life, like most of my life, I was a projector out of alignment. I was a projector who worked really hard, like working, when I mean work hard, meaning like working a lot, like working tons of hours, whether it was like 40 plus hour work week, or at one point I had like 6 jobs. And it was what I knew. It was what I knew and what I've always known until I discovered human design. And coincidentally, I discovered human design when we went into our first lockdown. And that was how, like, by not being able to work because the whole entire world was shut down during that time, it allowed me to really start playing around with what it means to be a projector in my space and slowing down and not having to work like crazy amount of hours. And that was when I got a little bit of a taste of it. And then what ended up happening is that I moved towns and started doing a lot of like deep inner child healing and shadow work. So while I wasn't working a crazy amount of hours, I was still spending a lot of time doing a lot of inner work, which again requires a lot of energy in itself. And now I've come to a place where it's like the shadow work. I don't want to say it's done. Like, I think inner child healing, shadow work, and like doing the inner work is something that is through a lifetime, but there's stages of it. It looks different. It doesn't always look deep and dark and heavy, and sometimes it would, and there's different time frames. It's not always the same time frame. But now I'm coming out of it as like completing the bulk, like I've completed a big bulk of it. And I'm in this new beginning where I'm playing and I'm having fun. And it's almost like I feel like this weird, this weird voice inside of me saying like, oh no, but you should be doing more. You should be doing more in your business, or you should be reflecting more and doing more inner child healing, or you should be, because that was all I knew. And so it's a matter of like now kind of balancing and knowing that this place of like playing and having fun and, you know, coming on here and sharing when I feel called to, and that I don't have to do it all the time, navigating that is exactly what it is to be a projector in alignment. That projectors were not here to work all the time. We're not here to do. And that we are here to play and have fun. And that it's okay if if we only put an hour in a day in our work. And that the next day we actually don't work at all and we just play and we go have fun. Because that is where we feel good, right? That is where we're nurturing ourselves and we're feeling good. As projectors, we are here to guide. As projectors, we are the guides of all the human design types. And there's a lot of energy that we hold in that because we see ourselves through the other. That's how we're meant to guide. We see it, like we really see people through their perspective. And that's a lot. That's a lot of space to hold. And so it is important for us to play and have fun. And if that is 90%. And I think that we've been so subconsciously programmed through our environment, society, whatever else, that minute we get into this place of like, oh, this is what it means to be in alignment, this is what it feels like, then our little brain is like, but shouldn't we be doing more? No. No. And it's a weird, I'm not gonna lie, it's a really weird sensation to be in this place, because for me, this just started. It just, the past month. So I'm, completely new into it. And I'm trying to, navigate it and be okay, little voice, it's cool that you feel like you should be doing more, but you don't need to be doing more. And really working hand in hand with myself of it's okay to have fun. Yeah, I love that. So we have someone here who she mentioned that there's a narrative of how a lot of projectors feel like they work like generators. But as a generator, I've never overworked. My divine sacral always showed me when to stop. So that's the thing, as generators and many gens who have the divine sacral know when enough is enough. But a projector doesn't necessarily always know when enough is enough. So they don't know when to stop overworking. They don't know when it's that point, unless a projector gets sick or there's a physical ailment or literally over exhaustion. And I think that also applies to the other non-sacral types like manifestors and reflectors. But manifestors, reflectors, energy levels are a little bit different than a projector. And yeah, there is a lot of narratives in human design. And I think it's sometimes these narratives and these stories begin as a way to understand the other types, so that the other types can understand each other. But really what it is a projector doesn't necessarily mean they've worked like a generator their whole life. It just means that they've overworked the capacity that they're able to. And some projectors have and some haven't. I do believe that there's some projectors that have not gone through the overworking such as I have. And so I know I went above and beyond the capacity that I'm able to, and I'll get sick every time. It was known, every time I've overworked, this eye starts twitching. I'm shaking and then I'll catch a cold. And that was minor in terms of some of the ailments that other projectors can get if they are overworked, because projectors, we don't know when to stop. And so kind of coming into this place of when you realize what your energy levels are, and each projector is different. Some projectors have more energy than others. If you're if you have a defined, one of the defined motor centers, you need to understand what your levels are for yourself. And so I've done a lot of it's human design is an experiment, and I've done a lot of trial and error to figure out what can I handle, what can I not, when should I stop, when should I not continue, and playing with that. And it I've been in human design experiment for 2.5 years, and I'm still learning about my energy. I'm still learning what's an invitation, what's not an invitation, because it's an experiment, and we're always going to be learning and growing, and that's the beauty of human design. Yeah, so, and then, that I hope the conditioning can now transfer the other way of let me listen to my generator friends and actually stop working. I love that. I think that when it comes to generators and many gens, this is my perception, is that you have the energetic sacral to keep going. And I believe that sometimes it's associated too much with work when it doesn't need to be. Obviously, depending on what you do for work, depending on, if work lights you up, I do think that there's some generators and many gens that end up in a work field that doesn't necessarily light them up. And I think that is something to also look at. But I think it's what are you spending your time on as a generator in Mani Gen? Like, you have that energy. What are you spending your time on throughout the day? And is it things that light you up? And you can use that your energy to go through that day, but it's like setting the boundaries with what works for you of when to stop working. Let me know if that resonates with you. But like, kind of like, yeah, when to stop working, when to start playing, when to like, and when not to overwork. And so that is something for my Mani Gens and generators that you can kind of like play around with. Again, it's your experiment. I'm not here to tell you that you need to work 8, 5, or 10-hour days. Like, you work however you want to work, but you need to find that balance with yourself of like, okay, am I going to the place where I'm overworking? Am I going to the place where I'm like taking most of my energy and associating with work? And then like, when can I go and play? When can I go do things that light me up, that are fun? Because we are meant to do things that light us up. The whole like aspect of society being built on this paradigm, so to speak, around working. And it's like, it's the 8-hour workday that was invented. Like, these are things that were invented by society, but they are not necessarily what makes us human, or they're not necessarily for everybody. You can create the life you want to live. And if you are a generator manager and you're like, I want to work 1 hour a day and play the rest of the day, like, by all means, go for it. So how can you create the life you want that lights you up? And again, listening to your sacral, listening to your gut. Like, if you're a Mani Gen generator, listening to your gut, listening to your authority. If you are manifestor, projector, or reflector, and you have other authorities, like, what is your authority? What does your authority say? I've never had to work for the signal for when I'm tired. That's, yeah, it's just, you're listening to your sacral. But then it's like, yeah, listening to your sacral and getting out of your mind, getting out of like the logical, like, what's the, like, oh, logically I need to be working this, or I should be doing this. Like, even when I said earlier, I'm in this new beginning of like a projector in alignment where I'm barely working and having a lot of fun and still doing my business and still like, there's abundance coming in, but it's like, I get the shoulds in my mind come up, and it's like, how can you be aware of the shoulds? How can you be aware of like the needs, or like what your mind is saying, and how can you bring that back to your authority? So if you are a Mani Gen generator, to your sacral. If you are the other types, whatever your authority is, whether it's splenic or self-projected or ego, or emotional. And so it's bringing back, getting out of your mind and into your body, and really listening and seeing like, what is my body saying? And I remember like kind of like reflecting on this of like, oh, I'm in this new beginning. Like, I'm trying to like find my footing and like trying to find the stabilization of it, because I'm like, I've never been in this before. This is new and it's exciting. It's new, it's exciting, but it's just like, okay, this is the thoughts that are coming up. Let me talk about it. I'm self-projected, so let me talk about it. And let's see like what my G center, like the direction of like where it's going. And it's just like, no, this is exactly where you're meant to be. Like, this is exactly how you're meant to be living your life. Like, this is how it's working. And that's how it works for me. And like, I think those with generators, Mani Gens, and having that sacral, that gut feeling of like, okay, this is where my gut is saying no. And then like, listen to that instead of like tapping into that, like the mind of like what's logical. That's your edge talking to you. I love that. And so that's a beautiful way to phrase it. That is a beautiful way. And thank you for sharing that. And yeah, so I wanted, for those who are projectors and you're watching the replay, I want you to just like take a moment to like look at your life and look at, are you working? Are you playing? Where is your time going? And how does that feel for you? And how does that feel for your authority? And really tapping into your authority to seeing like, is this feel in alignment with you? And by navigating that and seeing how that works, then this is where you're going to just automatically, naturally go through that alignment of success. We don't go to success by saying like, oh, now we're in success. Like, I didn't get here by saying like, oh, this is how the path I'm going to take to success. Like, it just happens. It happens when you align yourself to your energy as a projector. But then again, it's like doing it the way you want to do it. Like, there's no like, human design gives you the guideposts. Human design gives you the breadcrumbs. But then you take that and it's like, make it your own. It's your own, you're the like artist. It's your own canvas. Do what you want. Take the breadcrumbs. Your breadcrumbs are your paints. Breadcrumbs are the paints. And you are the brush. And now you're going to like dap in and you're going to look at, okay, as a projector, I need to play more. Okay, how do I want to bring playing more into my life? Doing work that, kind of like lights me up. Like, okay, like how can I add that to my life? And just create it. What would that look like? What would it look like where you are currently at? And like, what would you love for it to look like? Oh yeah, I love that you shared that. So there are a lot of mani-gens and generators who have projected channels, and even like if you are a profile 5, that is also projector line. And yeah, I love that you brought that up, because it's like, even if you are a generator or mani-gen, there are some channels that you need to be invited in to share your gifts, to share your guidance. And so that is where I would recommend, for those who are not aware of human design in the in-depths, is to get a reading, either myself or, if there's another reader that you connect with, to look at those channels and look at the gates and see what's there for you and how to navigate that on a different level. Because it's like, yeah, even though you're a generator or mani-gen, like there's some things that if you have those projected channels, you need to get the invitation for those specific gifts in that specific area. Again, human design gives you the signpost, gives you the breadcrumbs, and then you take that and you make it what you like to make it. And so, yeah, I love having this conversation. And thank you so much that you joined. I'm not sure which one is your first name, like with the Instagram name. So that's why I haven't said your name. But I just wanted to like kind of share with you that I appreciate you coming on and having this discussion with human design with me, because I think that I love like talking about this. I could talk about human design until the wee hours of the night. It's just something that lights me up. And Sana, okay, thank you so much, Sana. Like, I love that. Yeah, thank you, Sana, for joining me. And yeah, have more of these conversations. And if you don't know anything about human design, I was just part of a podcast interview that I talked about the very basics of human design. So this is where, if you go through like either my link in my bio, there's going to be a podcast section, or you could go to my stories, right? Like if you're listening to this within the 24 hours, I have the link in my stories as well. So that can give you that's where like I'm talking about the basics. And so you can go there if you feel called for a reading. I do readings. I also do couple readings, which is like something new I've been tapping into. I've been receiving invitations to share about it. So if you want a couple reading, I could do that as well. And yeah, thank you. I will talk to you all tomorrow. This was day 3:55. Oh my God, what day am I on my IG live? Hold on, I need to like look at this up for a second. I think I'm on day 355. Means we have 10 days? No, that doesn't feel right. I'll just like look at it when I get off, and I'll post it on my stories how many days. But we're almost done the 365 days live. It's crazy. Almost done. Okay. Right.